What's up, guys, and welcome to a brand new episode of NeoVintage News. Now, for you guys who have never seen the show before, basically I talk over the biggest stories in gaming, give you guys my quick thoughts, then towards the end of the show I tell you guys what I've been playing and what my game recommendation of the week usually goes from anywhere from 25 to 45 minutes, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. So we're going to start with a story that I'm not going to try to spend too much time on because it's kind of an evolving story that has something pretty much every week to add to it, and it doesn't look like there's any end in sight right now, so I'm not going to kill too much time. We've addressed this story before, but basically it's our weekly Apple versus Epic update. Now, escalating its war with Epic Games, Apple on Friday canceled the video game publisher's account on the App Store. With Friday's moves, the rest of Epic Games will not be allowed on the App Store. As of Friday, a search for Epic Games in the App Store shows no games associated to the Epic Games Store. Important to note, though, a judge on Monday ruled that Apple could not prohibit access to Epic's Unreal Engine, a software kit developers use to build games. So it seems like, as of right now, Unreal Engine remains intact on the App Store. However, Epic Games' account in and of itself has been terminated with Apple. So they're kind of upping the ante, and we're going to see a lot of back and forth, kind of petty nonsense between these two corporations, and we're ultimately going to see what the judge rules for. But as of right now, it kind of seems up in the air, and they're kind of sending shots back and forth, and I'm sure by the next episode I'll have another development for you guys. So the next one we could do is Gamescom 2020 opening night live. So the virtual version of Gamescom 2020 has happened, and we got a lot of different things that were shown off. So I'm going to run through everything that was shown off, and I'll kind of stop and give you guys my thoughts on ones that I have thoughts on. So the first one I guess we could start on with is Dragon Age. They showed off some new stuff for Dragon Age 4. This has been a highly anticipated game by BioWare. It's been some time since we've gotten a new Dragon Age game. BioWare is kind of like a strange entity in these times because nobody really knows what to do with them. Obviously, we have a lot of love for BioWare going back to their Mass Effect days, but going forward with Andromeda and Anthem, things have been a little bit more shaky associated with the name BioWare. So a lot of people are very cautiously optimistic, but at the same time apprehensive about what Dragon Age is ultimately going to turn out to be, and whether it's going to be high quality or not. As of right now, BioWare hasn't, ruined their trust as far as it goes for me. I still believe in their ability to release something really well done. And again, the team is big. There's different teams that work on different things. So just because, Andromeda didn't turn out to be what it is, doesn't mean that BioWare proper won't be able to churn out a really high quality experience. And yeah, Anthem has had its own set of issues, but again, that's not enough to terminate everything I saw them do with Mass Effect. I still believe in BioWare. We got Sims 4 and a Star Wars crossover. Fall Guys Season 2, obviously Fall Guys, massive game right now, one of the biggest and hottest games in the industry right now, and it seems like they're getting a Season 2, which is absolutely smart. Cash in on this moment. It's really awesome to see such a small game be able to dominate the discussion so much. We have Black Ops Cold War trailer. Star Wars Squadrons showed off some new footage as well. The indie game 12 Minutes was shown off. We got Ratchet & Clank on PS5. We got this demo look at it. That game is looking phenomenal, and it looks like they're going to be able to hit 4K 60. So that's really awesome. Medal of Honor in VR. This is a title that not too many people have been talking about. Obviously, it's a VR game, and I believe this is coming to Oculus. So it seems like it's already kind of limited in terms of its player base. But anything Medal of Honor is really interesting to me. Personally, when going back to the PlayStation 1, Medal of Honor was kind of my entrance into first-person shooters. I know a lot of people on like N64 were playing like Perfect Dark and stuff like that. Obviously, some people came in with Doom, some people came in with 007, but for me, I came in through Medal of Honor, and I have a lot of love for that series. And obviously, it's kind of been a tumultuous kind of thing with it coming to the modern game sphere because they tried to relaunch it, I think back in 2015 or so, if I'm mistaken. And it didn't really resonate too much, so it's had some trouble trying to get some traction again. And so they're going to try it again with VR, and I hope this really works well for them, because I think with other game franchises having done World War II to death and then now going to somewhere else, it's really interesting kind of them going back to that traditional World War II shooter. And again, it's something that's been done to death. We've seen it, but I think VR might be the place to go with it, and I hope it comes out well for them. We got Doom Eternal's story campaign expansion called The Ancient Gods. Obviously, Doom Eternal is a phenomenal game. The story was pretty solid. It did, for some people, fall apart on the latter half, so hopefully the Ancient Gods can kind of make up for that and bring the campaign to where it really needs to be for some people. But personally, I enjoyed it front to back. Bridge Constructor franchise with a Walking Dead spinoff. Obviously, they did a Portal version of this, so they're doing Walking Dead next. I know there is definitely a player pool who really enjoy these games. And then lastly, they kind of ended off with the World of Warcraft new expansion called Shadowlands. Obviously, you guys know what World of Warcraft is in the game industry. It's not something that I'm super familiar with, so I'm not going to go too into depth about what this expansion entails or anything like that. That's a PC space, not really my thing that I know too much about, and I'm not going to try to speak ill-informed. But it's really awesome that that game is still, kicking and doing well, and people really love that game and still are putting in, dozens of hours into it. That's really awesome. So, yeah, that was Gamescom 2020. Next one is kind of a weird rumor that we've seen float around for some time now, but we'll see about the legitimacy of it. So the rumor is Nintendo will launch a new Switch hardware model early next year, a report citing manufacturing sources has claimed. Now, keep in mind, years back, there was the whole rumor that we were going to get a mini version and a pro version. The mini version was going to come first. The pro version was going to come after. We've gotten the mini light version of it and no pro version. There was some stuff, I believe about a year ago at this point, where they were talking to shareholders saying that no pro model was happening in 2020. So if this upgraded Switch version is even happening, it's probably not happening anytime soon. But according to this, Taipei-based newspaper Economic Daily News claimed on Tuesday that the new Switch will enter production later this year and a launch plan for Q1 2021. Again, take this with a grain of salt. According to the publication, the new Switch model will feature upgraded interactivity and improved display quality. Now, this is the rumor that I really take issue with, and I'm going to discuss this in more depth on the podcast that will be going up Monday, which is the rumor is that it can support 4K graphics. Now, the issue is, yes, a 4K display is completely possible, but the issue is the battery life. The Switch already doesn't have great battery life, and that is basically maxed at I believe 720 handheld 1080p docked. So 4K, I'm really not buying it. Again, maybe if 4K docked, they might be able to do something there, but I'm not really buying it. Again, Nintendo hasn't really expressed any willingness or interest in trying to be a massive powerhouse. They're really interested in kind of offering unique first-party experiences. So this would be a a serious upgrade for the Switch to be able to do anything at 4K. So, I'm not buying it, but it's out there, and I wanted to let you guys know. And again, if this happens, that's awesome. But again, Q1 2021, we're getting pretty close to that point. So that means they're going to be right after the launch of the PS5 and the Xbox One, right there with a brand new Switch hardware entering production later this year. We're in August right now. When are they planning production? You start the production process, hardware is going to start leaking and stuff like that. So we're ultimately going to see relatively soon whether this is legit or not. But I'm right now not buying it. But again, it would be really awesome if this happened. This is something that I'm personally interested in. I love what Nintendo did with the Switch. So more power, more experiences, I think is a smart move for Switch, because again, the Switch already has trouble running some current gen experiences, and it has to run kind of either super rendered, getting that resolution down, getting that frame rate down to be able to run things like that, like the Witcher and stuff like that. So for it to be able to compete with the Series X and the PS5, they really need to step their game up, because they're going to really start bumping into a disparity where it's like, if you need to run things 720 with the PS4, Xbox One generation, when people are moving into 60 frames per second, 120 frames per second, 4K native, and you're still running things at 720, it's going to look a bit crazy. And even though they're trying to do different things, that discrepancy is a bit much. But if they're able to drop a Switch hardware that runs things at 1080p native and then maybe can upscale to 4K docked, that might be putting them in a much better position, especially with having other teams be able to get their games and parity across it. That's going to put them in a much better position. Because again, if you need to make your game run on the PS5 and the Xbox Series X and taking advantage of that power, but you also want a Switch version, and that needs to be brought down all the way to 720, that's a really wide gap. So if they're able to get that up a little bit, it's going to be a lot better of an experience for players and a lot better of experience for developers as well. So the next story, PS5 pre-orders. So pre-orders for the PS5 seem to be getting closer. Sony is opening online registration to possibly receive an invitation to be one of the first to pre-order the game directly from PlayStation. Now, let me explain this. They kind of dropped a site where basically you put in your PSN sign-in ID, and they basically put you in the running to get an invitation to pre-order. So this is not a guaranteed pre-order or anything like that, but it's basically like putting you in consideration for it. And I guess they're maybe going to look at your activity and stuff like that, so you're an active account and stuff like that. So I put my ID in there, but I have severe concerns about the PS5 launch, specifically in getting pre-orders and stuff like that. This is going to be an incredibly in-demand machine. It's not going to probably be easy to get a pre-order. I'm going to keep my eyes on Target and Amazon and Walmart and Best Buy and the PS5 site itself, and hopefully I can secure one. But again, as it gets closer, I'm getting more and more nervous about my abilities to get it. But again, who knows? Maybe it won't be as bad as it is, because obviously we're not going to be dealing with artificial scarcity. They're going to produce as many as they can, probably, and as much as the demand warrants. I know they want to get PS5s into people's hands, but at the same time, I mean, with the whole COVID thing and production already being strained on top of that, and there's natural limitations to be able to produce things at launch. Launches are tough to begin with, and on top of that, the PS5 launch being in the shape it is, it's going to be a very unique experience. The next story, Resident Evil Netflix show. So Netflix has finally confirmed that a live-action adaptation of Capcom's legendary survival horror franchise Resident Evil is in the works. The synopsis is as follows according to Netflix themselves. In the first timeline, 14-year-old sisters Jade and Billy Wesker are moved to New Raccoon City, a manufactured corporate town forced on them right as adolescence is in full swing. But the more time they spend there, the more they come to realize that the town is more than it seems, and their father may be concealing dark secrets. With their last names being Wesker, I'm assuming they're talking about Wesker, Albert Wesker, but we'll see. Secrets that can destroy the world. Cut to the second timeline. Well over a decade into the future, there are less than 15 million people left on Earth and more than 6 billion monsters. People and animals affected by the T-virus. Jade, now 30, struggles to survive in this new world while the secrets of her past and about her sister and her father and herself continue to haunt her. So a very interesting story, weird middle zone that's giving me like some idea, obviously some connection to the games, but at the same time, it gives me a lot of vibes of the live action movies. So we'll see. My reaction is, I can't stand this move towards the live action thing. But at the same time, I can't crap on everything Netflix has done live action, because obviously The Witcher was an amazing experience. So I won't say it's gonna, guaranteed be terrible. There is some potential it can be good. But as of right now, that's a very interesting synopsis. It does not sound like your conventional Resident Evil story by any means. But for you guys who are familiar with Resident Evil, you guys know that they play around with a whole bunch of different themes and environments and tones and characters and stuff like that. So it's kind of a all over the place franchise. So it doesn't surprise me that in many ways the synopsis of the story seems kind of all over the place, but again, it could be really awesome, and I'm gonna go into it with an open mind. I'm definitely gonna watch it. I definitely love me some Resident Evil, but I understand that sometimes Resident Evil's a hit, sometimes it's not, and this is kind of up in the air. I'm never really confident in Resident Evil anything, because again, I've seen it hit really high highs and really low lows, so I've seen the kind of full gamut of what Resident Evil is, the potential is, so we'll see ultimately how it plays out. The last story we have is some next-gen launch leaks. Now, obviously, we're headed towards next-gen. There's lots of projections and leaks and rumors and lies and BS, and you kind of have to filter through what you can and report what I can and keep you guys in the loop, but at the same time, let you guys know that until it's formally confirmed by Microsoft, Xbox, or Nintendo, take everything with a grain of salt. But it is interesting nonetheless to see these stories. So according to VideoGamesChronicles.com's development and retail sources, mid-November is exactly when the PS5 is most likely to land. Again, this is according to Video Games Chronicles development and retail sources. So these are anonymous sources. Again, they might be in the know, they might not, but at the same time, there is journalistic integrity and they vet their sources. So you could know that it's probably not a straight lie, but at the same time, things are open to change as this is a very volatile time. In the UK, we understand that PlayStation has already booked significant marketing spend for the 7 days commencing on Friday, November 13th. Multiple retail sources have also told us that a launch during this window would fit within their expectations. Obviously, this is from the UK marketing, but keep in mind, Sony has been moving towards more globalizing the brand, so a global launch is most likely something that they're trying to aim for. Whether they achieve it or not, I'm not sure. Development and retail sources also agree that Xbox will launch first, which makes sense because their whole marketing strategy, they're getting hardware into people's hands, they're doing size comparisons, they're very out there, Microsoft. So it seems like they're really ready to go. In terms of a software, we're not sure. But in terms of hardware, Microsoft is ready, very obviously. Microsoft has told developers to plan towards a launch in the very first week of November, we understand, which would also give wiggle room to potentially slip in the second week and still launch ahead of Sony. Xbox sources indicated that the platform holder is also expecting PS5 to arrive within the week commencing November 13th. So it seems like what they're projecting right now is Microsoft's going to launch first, early November. Whenever that files in, we don't know. It could be first week, could be second week, and then third or fourth week could be Sony. But they're both seeming to launch in November, so that's very interesting. That's going to put them around Call of Duty. There's lots of different titles coming around there. It's beating out the holiday season, so they're all going to launch pre-Black Friday, which makes all the sense in the world. They're definitely not launching in December past Black Friday. If you're past Black Friday, you might as well bump it to the February, March range where like Nintendo launched the Switch in 2017. So it makes sense from kind of a marketing launch past, deadline type timeline. So it makes sense. Everything checks out. Ultimately, we'll see. Obviously, October seemed a bit early, especially the fact that we're nearing September at this point. If they're definitely not going to start mass marketing and pre-orders and stuff like that a month from launch there. So it makes sense with pre-orders going up relatively soon, probably in September for a November launch. So I believe it in terms of everything checking out. But again, until you hear Sony and Microsoft or Nintendo say anything officially, you have to take everything with a grain of salt. And I'm sorry to say that over and over again, but I got to temper everybody's expectations. So, like, if we hit something and they decide to launch at a different time, you're like, hey, you said A, B, and C. Listen, I said that so-and-so is reporting A, B, and C, but that we don't know that for sure. So I guess we can go into the latter half of the show right now, and it's what we've been playing, or what I've been playing, and my game recommendation of the week. And so what I've been playing, something that just launched like 2 days ago or so, like that, from recording this. It's Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, the remaster. I'm playing it on Switch, but I believe it's also launched on PlayStation as well. I'm enjoying what I've played so far. It's bringing a lot of memories back. I do have it on GameCube. It's a game that I really enjoyed growing up, and so going back into it, it's interesting. They cleaned it up in terms of the visuals. I'm liking the way it looks. Obviously, visually, it harkens back to probably 9 the most. If you're looking for a comparison, it probably looks like Final Fantasy 9 the most. But it has that kind of chibi art style and stuff like that. It has voice acting. The gameplay style is unconventional. It's more of an active thing, but you're casting magic and you're doing stuff, but it's not active in the way that you'll see like Final Fantasy 15, but it does have free motion unlike Final Fantasy 13. So it's some kind of weird hybrid thing. It launched on the GameCube some time back, and I'm enjoying what I'm playing of it, but again, I haven't dived deep into the narrative or anything like that, so I can't speak as to how much it holds up. I'll have more information for you guys probably on the podcast going up on Monday, and for the subsequent weeks as I get deeper into the game. But so far, I'm enjoying it. It launched as a budget title for $30. I was confused at first because I actually went on Amazon and I was like, where is this game? Because I wanted to buy a physical for it, but it seems like it's only seeming to get a digital launch. Maybe I'm tripping. Maybe they're launching it somewhere else, but at least wasn't on Amazon. But yeah, picked it up for $30. So far, I think it's worth it if you enjoy Crystal Chronicles. If this is your first time playing it, I think it's going to show its age a little bit. I don't think it's aged amazingly in some of the ways that like the mainline Final Fantasies do, but in many ways it's a fun kind of trip back to that GameCube generation. There's a lot of awesome character design, there's a lot of awesome voice acting, there's some really cool story stuff that they play around with, but some of the UI choices, some of the battle choices can feel a little bit clunky depending on your familiarity with the source material. So I would say if you played it back in the day and you enjoyed it, absolutely jump into this remaster. It's been more than enough time for you. And obviously going back to the GameCube, if you don't have a GameCube, it's annoying to go back into, and it's not really backwards compatible on anything that's still around. So I highly suggest you buy it on the new consoles. Show Square Enix we love these Final Fantasy, remasters and stuff like that. I'm really enjoying how they're treating some of their backlog. I wish they would treat Final Fantasy 1 through 6 a little bit better, but so be it. I'll take whatever I can get. So if you're familiar with Crystal Chronicles, definitely jump into it. If you've never played Crystal Chronicles and you only really experienced the main lines, you got a little bit disposable income, I think you can get some time out of it. But if you're really more suited towards like the Final Fantasy 14s, the 15s, you like the newer stuff, you like modern RPGs and hack and slashes and stuff like that, this is not going to be for you. I don't think it's the battle style and the UI choices and some of the narrative stuff are really going to resonate with you at all. But yeah, that's what I've been playing. Now, my game recommendation of the week is kind of a weird one, and it's because it went on sale on Switch. And you guys know I play a lot of my indie stuff on Switch. I play a lot of my console stuff, kind of split in between like exclusives on PS4 and kind of third-party games on the Xbox and stuff on Game Pass, obviously on Xbox. So I'm kind of all over the place, but I always check the eStore for cool indie sales and stuff like that, because there's amazing sales on Switch sometimes, other than the Switch tax that they add to launch games, but I won't even get onto that. But my game recommendation of the week is Cell Damage, and this is the HD version that's launched on all the main consoles, and I'm playing it on Switch, and this is a game that I grew up on, and unfortunately I don't have it on GameCube. I need to pick that up. I'm gonna add that to my wish list in terms of retro games that I want. But it's a really excellent multiplayer kart game, but it's not a racer in the traditional way. It's more of a battle arena type game, where you have different characters that you can choose to have different abilities and different vehicles, and you drive around an open environment looking for upgrades and different things, and you just try to rack up points and kill each other pretty much. So it's in line with like a team deathmatch, but at the same time you're in a cart and you're using these really cool cartoon characters, and it has like this cool aesthetic of like being on a TV show, and it's clunky and it's crude and it's all over the place, and excellent humor that I think really resonates in a way of we haven't seen anything like that in quite some time. It's again very crude, and when you're playing it, you're like, wow, this was on a Nintendo device, in the early 2000s. That's kind of crazy, but I think it really holds up really well, and again, it's very inexpensive. I got it on Switch for like $3-4 or something like that, so I highly recommend if you're looking for something to play around with some friends, and you just want to play around, and especially if you had it back in the day, highly recommend Cell Damage HD. I think the kind of cell shaded art style of it still holds up very well, cleans up. Obviously, if you played stuff like Wind Waker and Okami and stuff like that art style ages really well, and this one's no exception. And I think the humor's still really funny, the gameplay is still fast, kinetic, it runs really well, and I like what they're doing there, and I want to support this generation of games. I feel like the GameCube, PS2 generation is super underrated, and there's a lot of great titles from them that I would love to see be brought forward. And this HD title has been out for some time, and I finally got the chance to get my hands on it, and highly recommend it. So that was the show for you guys. We made pretty good time this week. Not too many stories, but lots of interesting stuff to talk about. I highly recommend that if you want to see us go into more depth with these stories and maybe some other ones, I highly recommend you go check out the NeoVintage podcast. We're dropped every single Monday with a brand new episode, and the topics are broken up throughout the week if you have any interest on any particular story. So till next time, this is Jabrell from NeoVintage Games. Love you guys. Bye.